Daniel and Esther shared a profound love that many admired. As lovers, they seemed inseparable, united by a deep affection. Daniel, an engineer, and Esther, a talented freelance graphic designer, complemented each other beautifully. Daniel cherished Esther deeply, consistently showing his appreciation through thoughtful gestures. He often surprised her with spontaneous dates, such as picnics in the park, luxurious vacations, and romantic weekend getaways. Daniel never missed an opportunity to express his love, making Esther feel valued and adored. Esther basked in Daniel's love and attention. She loved the gifts he bought her, the elaborate dinners he planned, and the small, thoughtful surprises that made her feel special. Her favorite was a handmade photo album filled with memories of their time together, each picture accompanied by a handwritten note from Daniel. However, Esther had a temper that occasionally overshadowed her gentle nature. Minor disputes would sometimes spiral into intense arguments, and in those moments, her anger would surge, with Daniel often bearing the brunt of it. Nonetheless, Daniel's devotion to Esther remained unwavering. He had faith in the strength of their relationship and was resolute in his determination to brave any turmoil that might come their way. One evening, Daniel planned a romantic dinner at home. He cooked her favorite dish, set the table with candles, and filled the room with soft music. Esther arrived, but instead of the usual excitement, she seemed irritable. Daniel tried to lighten the mood, but a minor comment about how she spent the whole day with her friends led to an explosive argument. In a fit of rage, Esther slapped Daniel. The room fell silent as they both stood there, stunned. Daniel's cheek stung, but he swallowed his pride and reached out to her. He pulled her into his arms and whispered soothing words, trying to calm her down. Esther, realizing what she had done, broke down in tears. Despite the hurt, Daniel begged her to stay, promising that they could work through their issues together. This pattern continued over the months. Daniel would shower Esther with love and attention, only to be met with her occasional outbursts. He bought her gifts, took her on romantic getaways, and did everything he could to make her happy. Esther, while appreciative, grew accustomed to his generosity and became more demanding. She rarely helped with household chores, leaving Daniel to cook and clean after long days at work. Daniel's friends often wondered why he put up with Esther's temper and laziness, but Daniel believed that true love meant accepting someone despite their flaws. He was committed to making their relationship work, no matter the cost. He held on to the moments when Esther was sweet and affectionate, believing that deep down, she loved him just as much as he loved her. Despite the challenges, Daniel's dedication to Esther never wavered. He supported her dreams, encouraged her creativity, and was always there to pick her up when she was feeling down. His unwavering love for Esther was the cornerstone of their relationship, and he was determined to make it work, believing that their love was strong enough to overcome any obstacle. Esther had a lifestyle that suited her freelancing work as a graphic designer and social media influencer. She often stayed up all night working on her influencing videos, creating content, and interacting with her followers. While Daniel admired her dedication to her work, he couldn't help but feel frustrated with how it affected their home life. Esther's late-night schedule meant she slept in well into the afternoon, leaving the household chores neglected. The dishes piled up in the sink, laundry went undone, and the house slowly fell into disarray. Daniel would come home from a long day at work, exhausted, only to find no food in the house. Instead of resting, he would roll up his sleeves and begin to cook for them. It became a routine. Daniel would walk through the door, his briefcase in hand, hoping to smell dinner cooking or see some sign that Esther had taken care of the home. Instead, he would find her sprawled on the couch, engrossed in her phone or catching up on sleep. Despite his exhaustion, he would head to the kitchen, prepare a meal, and clean up afterwards. Daniel never complained outright. He understood that Esther's work was demanding in its own way, but the imbalance in their responsibilities weighed heavily on him. He tried to have gentle conversations with her about sharing the household chores, but these talks often ended in arguments. Esther would accuse him of not understanding her work and would become defensive. One particular evening stood out in Daniel's memory. He had an exceptionally hectic day at work, dealing with tight deadlines and demanding clients. As he walked into the house, he was met with silence. The living room was cluttered with clothes and empty takeout containers. He made his way to the kitchen, only to find it in a similar state. His heart sank as he realized he would have to cook dinner once again. Daniel sighed deeply, rolled up his sleeves, and started preparing noodles for himself. After cooking and eating, he tidied the kitchen, took his suitcase and dished the remaining noodles for his girlfriend. When he got to the room, he found her on bed with her phone. The bed was scattered, she hadn't arranged it since she woke up that morning. Daniel's heart ached with the weight of his unspoken frustrations, but he gave her her food and greeted her nicely and went back to the living room to tidy it up. No doubt that Daniel admired her dedication, on her influencing life, but he couldn't shake the feeling of being taken for granted. He longed for a partner who would share the load and support him just as much as he supported her. Despite the growing strain, Daniel's love for Esther remained strong. He believed in their bond and hoped that things would eventually change. He held on to the memories of their happy moments, the times when Daniel was sweet and affectionate, and the belief that deep down, she loved him just as much as he loved her. One day, Esther's stepsister Sarah came to stay with them for a while. Esther and Sarah were so close, they shared things together and they had each other back. Sarah was everything Esther was not: kind, considerate, and hardworking. She noticed how Daniel was overburdened with chores and cooking while Esther spent her days lounging around, glued to her phone. Sarah couldn't stand seeing Daniel so stressed and decided to help out. Sarah would cook dinner, clean the house, and even pack Daniel's lunch for work. She made sure Daniel had a warm meal waiting for him when he came home. Esther, meanwhile, continued her usual routine, often leaving the house, spending the night out and returning the next day. Whenever Daniel complained, Esther would pick a fight, leaving Daniel feeling more frustrated and exhausted. Sarah saw the frustration on his face each time he and Esther gets into a fight. She applauded him for being a gentleman and a sweetheart, to always make peace with her. That's what true love is all about. Sarah's presence brought a breath of fresh air into Daniel's life. She was always cheerful and went out of her way to make him smile, just by taking care of the home and cooking. He noticed massive changes in his home as Sarah started living with them. Daniel started to look forward to coming home, knowing that Sarah would be there to welcome him with a warm meal and a kind word. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day, and Daniel found himself drawn to her caring nature. As the weeks went by, Daniel and Sarah grew closer. They would spend hours talking, sharing their hopes and dreams. Sarah's genuine interest in Daniel's life made him feel valued and appreciated, something he rarely felt with Esther. They laughed together, cooked together, and supported each other in ways that felt natural and effortless. Esther, oblivious to the growing bond between Daniel and Sarah, continued her reckless behavior. She would disappear for days without a word, leaving Daniel worried and anxious. On Daniel's birthday, Esther completely forgot, only to return the next day with a half-hearted apology. Sarah, on the other hand, had planned a surprise for Daniel, after getting the notification from Facebook. She ordered a cake and cooked a delicious meal for him. Daniel was touched by her thoughtfulness and realized how much he had come to care for her. One evening, after an argument between Esther and Daniel, Esther stormed out of the room and left the house. While Daniel left the room to the living room, he found Sarah sitting on the couch, watching TV, and he decided to open up about his frustrations and the toll his relationship with Esther was taking on him. Sarah listened patiently, offering comfort and understanding. In that moment, Daniel realized how much Sarah had grown on him. Her kind words were something he loves to hear and their cheerful nature was something he loved to experience with her. It had been days since Esther left the house, and Daniel found himself grappling with a mix of emotions. He had gotten used to being alone and enjoyed the quiet and peace that came with it. He continued to manage the household on his own, but the absence of Esther left a void that was both freeing and unsettling. One evening, after a particularly stressful day at work, Daniel sat down with Sarah in the living and decided to talk to her about his relationship with her sister. "Sarah, I love Esther, God knows I do, but she has pushed me to the last. It's been days since she left the house and hasn't returned. This is what she does whenever we have an argument. These few days I've had time to think, and I've realized how much I've grown to appreciate peace in a relationship. It's strange how I never noticed how turbulent things had been until today. Sarah looked at Daniel, her expression a mix of sympathy and concern. I can see how much you've been struggling, she said gently. It must have been tough. Daniel nodded. It's not just tough. It's exhausting. I'm tired of the constant nagging, the slaps, the insults. I've realized that I need a peaceful relationship. One where mutual respect and love are present, not just words but actions. Sarah's heart ached for Daniel. She had witnessed his tireless efforts to maintain the relationship with Esther, despite the overwhelming challenges. Daniel took a deep breath and continued, Sarah, I've grown to like you a lot. Being around you has shown me what a real, caring relationship can be. I can't continue with Esther, our relationship is wearing me down, and I feel like it might take me to an early grave. I need someone who will bring out the best in me, not just drain me. Sarah, you are so different from your sister, very homely. I feel at peace when with you, I admire you a lot, Sarah. Sarah was speechless. After a moment of silence she replied, I'm sorry about what you are going through in your relationship. I don't want you to be sorry for me, I want you to show me the peace and comfort you bring, let me into your heart, Sarah. Daniel said, I can't betray Esther, whatever differences you both have can be settled. She's my sister and it feels wrong to be involved with you while she's still in the picture. Sarah, your sister is clearly tired of this relationship. It's been 5 days and she's not back. Sarah, this relationship has been over a long time ago. I've been the one saving it and I can't do that anymore. Without saying anything else, Sarah begged to be left alone. Daniel felt bad and went to his room. Sarah spent the night contemplating Daniel's words. She called her sister that night and asked where she was, that Daniel is worried sick about her, and she replied, tell him I would come back and pack my things at my time, I'm done with him. Without allowing Sarah to say a word, she cut the call immediately. The next day, which was a weekend, Sarah and Daniel had a heartfelt conversation. Sarah had thought about everything. She began, I've thought a lot about what you said, and I've realized that I can't be with you while you're still with Esther. It wouldn't be fair to either of us. Daniel nodded in understanding. I appreciate your honesty, Sarah. I agree. It wouldn't be right. I'll wait for Esther to return so I can end things with her properly. Sarah smiled sadly. Thank you for understanding. Daniel nodded, and wore a smile of relief. Thank you, Sarah, I'm hopeful. The next day, the house felt unusually tense. Daniel, who had spent the morning lost in thought, was on the bed when Esther arrived to pack her remaining belongings. The house was filled with the sound of rustling boxes and the occasional clatter of items. Daniel lay still, watching Esther move about the room packing her things. He had hoped for a quiet resolution, but it seemed the drama was far from over. The silence was interrupted when Esther dragged her box out and called out for Sarah. Sarah rushed out. Sarah, go pack your bag. We need to get going, Esther said. Sarah hesitated and said, Esther, I have a confession. What is it? Esther yielded. Daniel and I are now seeing each other, she said, scared. That was what I wanted to tell you on the phone when you said you were done with him and hung up. Esther was shocked at what just came out from Sarah's mouth. You are dating my boyfriend, she exclaimed. Ex-boyfriend you mean, Daniel said loudly. This relationship was far broken, am I not allowed to find love elsewhere since it's not working? He asked. Sarah is not going anywhere with you, she's here to stay. Sarah's heart raced. She stood frozen, her face flushed with a mix of emotion. Her feelings for Daniel had grown over the past days, but betraying her sister was never planned. Esther basked in disbelief. Her mouth fell open, betrayed and disappointed. She finally spoke up, you both deserve each other anyways. Betrayal. She took her luggage and banged the door at them. The weight of the moment settled heavily upon them. Both felt a mix of relief as they faced the uncertainty of their future together. Daniel turned to Sarah, his eyes filled with a mix of hope and apprehension. Thank you for accepting me, Sarah. You are my peace and comfort, I love you. Sarah smiled, her face pale but resolute. Daniel embraced Sarah, kissed her forehead, ready to navigate the next chapter of their lives with the hope of building something meaningful and lasting, on the foundation of true love. Thank you for watching. Please do well to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more amazing stories.